Let's begin with our top focus on North Korea's Victory Day parade. Delegations from China and Russia have arrived in Pyongyang as North Korea's key allies to celebrate the Victory Day celebrations of the Korean War that ravished the Korean peninsula 7 decades ago. China and Russia have arrived in North Korea in a first post-pandemic visit to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, which of course, as we know, involved massive military parades. The visit comes amid years of pandemic isolation by North Korea that has invited its friends back now to its soil, and namely they are Russia and China. The visiting dignitaries include Russian Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu and Chinese Communist Party member Lee Hong-jong. North Korean leader Kim Jong Un personally gave the Russian Defence Minister a tour of defence exposition in Pyongyang, showing him a vast range of secret missiles, be it nuclear-capable ballistic missiles to its newest drones. Remember, North Korea has been at it as far as testing nuclear missiles is concerned and has also ruffled feather with not just NATO member countries, especially the United States as well. Additionally, at a reception for the Chinese delegation, senior North Korean official Kim Sung thanked the Chinese forces for joining the Korean War and praised the country's heroic feats and brave soldiers who marked a brilliant page in their history. Here are our ground reports before I quickly go over to one of the guests that I had interacted with earlier this week.
After years of pandemic isolation, North Korea has invited its friends back this week for 70th anniversary commemorations of the Korean War. Satellite images reveal that Pyongyang's preparing a large-scale military parade in its capital, with the number 70 clearly visible. The visiting dignitaries, the first known foreign delegation since the COVID-19 pandemic began, include Russian Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu. Images from Russia's Defence Ministry and North Korean media showed Shoigu being greeted by North Korean Defence Minister Kang Sun-nam at the airport and rows of North Korean and Russian troops. On Wednesday, Shoigu laid a wreath at a Korean War monument and called North Korea an important partner during talks in Pyongyang, adding that the two countries plan to strengthen defence cooperation. The United States has accused North Korea of providing weapons to Russia during the war in Ukraine, claims Pyongyang and Moscow have denied. But leader Kim Jong Un has vowed to bolster strategic cooperation between the nations. The visiting dignitaries who were announced on North Korean state television also include Chinese Communist Party Politburo member Lee Hong-jong. The visits come as Pyongyang looks to deepen its ties with Beijing and Moscow, finding common ground in their rivalries with Washington and the West. North Korea's leader Kim Jong Un showed Russia's defense minister the country's banned ballistic missiles at a defense exhibition as the neighbours pledged to boost ties. That's according to North Korean state media on Thursday. The Russian minister Sergei Shoigu and a Chinese delegation led by a Communist Party Politburo member arrived in North Korea this week. They're visiting for the 70th anniversary of the end of the Korean War, celebrated in North Korea as Victory Day. The nuclear-capable missiles were banned under UN Security Council resolutions adopted with Russian and Chinese support, but they provided a striking backdrop for a show of solidarity by three countries united by their rivalry with the US. Shoigu is making the first visit by a Russian defense minister to North Korea since the fall of the Soviet Union. For North Korea, the arrival of the delegations marks its first major opening up to the world since the COVID-19 pandemic. North Korean media reported that Shoigu gave Kim a letter from Russian President Vladimir Putin. Kim said the visit had deepened what he called the strategic and traditional relations between North Korea and Russia. North Korean media said Kim expressed the belief that, quote, the Russian army and people would achieve big successes in the struggle for building a powerful country. Local media reports on KCNA did not refer to the war in Ukraine, but North Korea's defense minister Kang Sun-nam was reported as saying North Korea fully supported what he called Russia's battle for justice and to protect its sovereignty. North Korean media said Kim also met Chinese Communist Party Politburo member Lee Hong-jong for talks and was handed a letter from Chinese President Xi Jinping.
So remember, when you see these highest level delegations coming in from Russia and China, these are the highest level delegations visiting North Korea in the recent past. What does it speak of the geopolitical order? One thing I can tell you, that here's a bloc, whether it is North Korea, Russia, China, even Iran is referred to. This is one bloc that is the one that is challenging a US-led world order. Earlier during the week, I spoke to senior Russian journalist Fred Weir. Let's listen in to that conversation. Fred Weir is joining me live. Good to have you on the show, Fred. When we talk historically, how did the Soviet Union and China support North Korea during its war? Let's try and get a background first before we delve deeper.
Well, we know for sure that this Soviet Union gave a lot of military support to North Korea, but it was the Chinese, the new Chinese People's Republic, that intervened with vast support and turned the tide of that war. In 1950, they just swept. The Americans had pretty well wrapped it up. And were winning when the Chinese wave of forces swept in and pushed them all the way back to the 38th parallel. It's a fascinating history, a terribly destructive war, and it stalemated there on the 38th parallel until they finally formalized that into the sort of no war, no peace situation that has prevailed ever since, 70 years now. And counting.
Right. Fred, at a time of war, what do these visits indicate, especially for Russia, North Korea military ties?
I think that it's significant that it's the Defence Minister Sergei Shoigu who will be attending this 70th anniversary parade, celebration, whatever we want to call it. North Korea was a backwater for a long time. Russia was cooperating with Western efforts to try to limit its nuclear program, hem it in with sanctions and so on, and until this new situation erupted, and now North Korea takes on a new importance for Russia as the world seems to divide into blocs again. Countries like North Korea become important pawns on the big chessboard, and any chance of cooperation between the powers, I mean between Russia and the United States and Europe and so on, has evaporated. So I think that there are, general ties being revived from the Cold War era, but specifically, I think that North Korea can provide Russia with ammunition. They have Soviet standard weaponry, which Russia uses, 155 millimeter artillery shells. They must have huge stockpiles of them, which Russia kind of needs right now. So there are immediate things. But in the longer term, I think cooperation could be there on many levels. North Korea is a supplier of labor, very skilled construction labor, which Russia will need to rebuild if they occupy parts of eastern Ukraine in future. They'll need workers to rebuild that. North Korea could be a supplier of that. So there are a lot of reasons, practical and ideological, to revive ties right now.
That's a very interesting point that you've made about providing construction workers. Fred, let's also break down the timing of the 70th anniversary of the 1953 armistice. A US soldier is currently in North Korea's custody and is in fact being very mum about it. Pyongyang has frequently also been testing missiles banned under the UNSCR. Is a show of strength more important than ever for Pyongyang at the moment?
I think so. I think that that in Pyongyang they will be taking full advantage of the changing geopolitical climate. They're coming out of pariah status, and even though both Russia and China say that they're still observing the sanctions regimes on North Korea, it's clearly the ice is melting between them, and that now new, more practical relationships will form.
Fred, South Korea is garnering much larger show of international support for its armistice anniversary commemorations compared to North Korea. It's going to have representatives from 22 countries who are expected to attend. How do you view the developments for North Korea, especially when there's a triad being viewed and that of North Korea, Russia and China, that too in a US-led world order?
I think that's predictable. I think we'll see much more of this in future. The world is kind of dividing into blocks, and of course, the U.S.-led bloc is far vaster and more powerful, and well, that's been a fact of life all through my lifetime, and it continues to be so. But what is remarkable here is that the ice that North Korea has been locked in globally is thawing, at least on that side, with Russia and China and maybe a few other countries starting to take a much deeper interest in the place, and as I say, forming these practical bonds with it.
All right, Fred, thank you so much for those very pragmatic insights into all my questions. It was a pleasure to have you on.